Hi, I'm Dustin Abbott. I recently reviewed the Schneider-Kreuznach and LK Samyang 14-24mm F2.8 wide-angle zoom lens on Sony E-mount. Those of you that watched that review know that I was quite impressed with the lens. I like the package when it comes to the size and weight, the autofocus capabilities, the image quality, and it even has great close focus capabilities. But as people begin to respond to that review, I was surprised by how many of you asked about how well it would work adapted to Nikon Z using an adapter like the Megadap. And frankly, I hadn't really crossed my mind. And I was actually delighted for you to pose that question, because it's like, you know what? I have a Nikon camera. I should test to see how it works, because that could be an intriguing option there. Obviously, Nikon does have their own 14-24mm F2.8 S lens. However, it is significantly bigger. It's about 30 millimeters longer and about 200 grams heavier, and it costs about $800 more, about $2,000. And so, particularly if you're someone like myself who has two platforms, that the lens could be used on both. So I was intrigued by the idea. So I've shot pretty much exclusively with this combination over the past week for both photos and videos using the Megadap ETZ21 Pro adapter, and here's what I have found. When it comes to the build side of things, really not a whole lot changes. The Megadap adds 2 millimeters of length to the lens and 43 grams, and so it's negligible in both metrics. It means that the combination is still only around 500 grams. The one kind of fly in the ointment is if you are concerned about shooting in adverse conditions, the Megadap is not weather sealed. And so you are potentially adding a compromised point, because while the lens itself is thoroughly weather sealed, obviously, and the camera is weather sealed, that adapter there in between, there is a slight possibility that some moisture could get in there. It's probably not very much, because everything does connect tightly together. However, that's just a potential risk there. I did note one situational glitch in terms of the handling and operation of the lens, and that was if I had gone into their software and I had changed the function of the AF-MF switch to where if it's in the AF position, the focus ring will work as an aperture ring. I found that did create a bit of a glitch on Nikon, to where sometimes aperture would jump around a little bit, but more importantly, as I was zooming in and out, it's where I particularly noticed it, I would see a little bit of some flashing here and there, because I think aperture wasn't responding consistently. And so I went back into the software. I changed the setting back to the default setting, where in the AF position, it just functions, the ring isn't really doing anything. And then I went where the manual focus obviously controls manual focus. When I've changed that back to the default setting for the switch, that problem went away. And so I was able to zoom in and out, as you can see here, without any kind of glitching. Aperture works completely normally, and it works in that sense just like a native lens. So as far as the handling of the lens, those are the only two potential flies in the ointment. One of those is kind of a theoretical problem if you're shooting in really nasty environment, maybe not the best combination. And then the other is easily solved just by eliminate that issue. I suspect it has to do with Nikon's perception of a customizable control ring, and so it isn't really that. And so I think that there's a little bit of a miscommunication that comes as a byproduct. So how about on the autofocus side of things? Here's where I was actually shocked. Autofocus is still shockingly fast and good. And you can see here that focus is still nearly instantaneous. It zips back and forth with extreme speed. It's actually one of the better Nikon Z-mount lenses that I've used in terms of autofocus speed. And so I think that part is definitely impressing. I found that I had good accuracy, focus remains nearly silent. I mean, bottom line is it felt like using a native lens, and I was able to just snap photos without any kind of thought about autofocus at all, other than the fact that autofocus was fast. And so that was great. On the video side of things, here's where I had low expectations, and once again, my expectations really were exceeded. So yes, you can see that focus pulls, they might be a little bit slower. However, you can see that while they're not fast, they are accurate and they're well damped. You're not seeing any kind of pulsing, any kind of visible steps, any kind of settling. It's not moving fast from point A to point B and back, but it is moving consistently and smoothly. In fact, I shot a whole segment that I was putting together, just kind of an intro to a space and talking about it. I shot the whole thing using this combination, and I never noticed any kind of autofocus glitching along the way. Furthermore, there does seem to be communication of the correction profile. And so while, as we'll get to in a moment, correction isn't perfect, it is still sufficiently good, even at 14 millimeters for shooting in the space with a lot of lightly colored walls, that I wasn't seeing, visible vignette heavily showing up, and distortion was corrected well enough that it really didn't seem to be a factor, even here on Nikon. Kudos. So how about image quality? Obviously, this is a lower resolution point, even at its highest. My Z8 is 45 megapixel, but my A7R5 is 61 megapixels. And so in that sense, this is having an easier go here on Nikon than what it did on Sony. So I would say, if anything, results look like almost even sharper because it's a lower resolution point, and basically it looks fantastic. And particularly, I felt like the 14 millimeter corners, rather than looking worse, actually looked better. And I would say that at 24 millimeters, at wide open, there was a little bit less contrast as it was on Sony, but stopping down to f4 restored that. And you can see by f5.6, it's sharp in the center, sharp in the mid frame, sharp in the corners at 24 millimeters as well. And so, testing all across 14 millimeters, testing all across 24 millimeters, even wide open, it's looking very good. You stop it down to f5.6, it's sharp everywhere. And so zero problems there. Now, that's not to say that there was no issue. Again, the correction profile does come over, but as I have found on every lens that I have reviewed on both Sony E and Nikon Z, whether they're developing a fresh, mount for the lens for Nikon Z, or I'm adapting it, there's always a lot more vignette on Nikon. And the reason for that is simple. The diameter of Nikon's mount is much larger, particularly compared to E mount. And so as a byproduct, it just means that lenses have not necessarily been engineered to go all the way to the edges of that mount. So there is more vignette that comes as a byproduct. And here I found that I could max out, particularly at 14 millimeters, I could max out the slider, and I still felt like I could use a little bit more. So it's a lot of vignette, very heavy. And at 24 millimeters, and basically anything other than 14 millimeters, it's still a lot. I need to pretty much max out the slider, but it's correcting everything. So, outside of that, all the same optical attributes other than that remain the same. It still has very low fringing, either of longitudinal or lateral style chromatic aberrations. Flare resistance is the same. It's basically doing all the same stuff other than with more vignette. And so at the end of the day, I would say the only new issue is the additional vignette, but optically it looks great. So no problems there. So my conclusion is this: if you're intrigued at that combination, this is a shockingly viable transition. The lens works very much like natively. I've enjoyed using it on Nikon, full stop, no caveat there. It's been a blast to use. And so, other than needing to correct for a bit more vignette in post sometimes, that's really been the only factor that I've run into. And it's hardly the first wide angle zoom that I've used before, or wide angle prime for that matter, that suffers from a lot of vignette. And so, that's part of the lens to begin with, and it's just magnified on Nikon Z. I think that this makes it an extra intriguing lens if you happen to have multiple systems and you're looking at it and saying it's something I could use on E mount and on Z mount as well. And I would say absolutely. If you have an adapter like the Megadap, it works like a treat and is actually one of the better ported over or adapted lenses that I have used using the Megadap. So great. And so if you're one of the ones that was intrigued on how well it worked, great news on almost all fronts. And hopefully this little video has helped you to determine whether or not this is a lens that should be on your radar if you're a Nikon Z mount shooter. As always, thanks for watching. Have a great day. Let the light in.